Good morning, class. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. We're going to go ahead and try this again because it seems the previous video was corrupted. So I believe almost everybody wasn't able to view it. So right. So how we were saying, we're going to go ahead and continue or start right section 2.1. Right. So we already got a lot of the definitions down from chapter 1. There were some computational problems, right? And from those computational problems, that's where we're going to transition into this section, right? So this section is going to focus on distribution tables, right? So whenever we're dealing with these tables, right, there's going to be two columns for the most part, right? Our classes column and our frequency column. All right. You're going to have a range of data from here, a range from data from here, and a range of data there, right? And the frequency, right, is going to be the number of times that either that letter or that number shows up, right? But before we get to that, let's go ahead and focus on just class, right? So I'm going to focus on, let's just say, this part of my table, right? So that's where we're going to focus on our foundation for this chapter, right? So let's go ahead and read the question, right? The question is right here. I'm going to have to find the class boundaries, the midpoint, and the width for the class given, all right? The class given is from 14.7 to 17.3, all right? And this part here, this is known as your lower limit. And this part here is known as your upper limit, right? So these are my definitions, right? To find the class boundaries, right? To find the class boundaries, I'm going to want values. It's going to be a value to the right of this and to the left of this, right? So you're pretty much hovering. You're pretty much, you have this information, this data given, and you're going to push a little bit to the right, and you're going to push a little bit to the left. And we did this in chapter 1, right? In the chapter 1 homework, we've done this, and we did this by, let's start on the upper limit. Let's start here, right? And I believe this was the easiest one, right? We said that we locate the number, right? And we're going to add a what to the end of it, attach a what to the end of it. A 5, right? So this is going to be a 17.35, right? We said this was my upper, right? This part here was my upper boundary. And for the left part, right, for this 14.7, we said we were going to focus on the last digit, right? It's a two-stepper. We're going to focus on that 7. And what am I going to do to that 7? I'm going to subtract a 1, right? So this is going to give me a 14.6. And then what do I attach at the end of it? A 5, right? Very nice. So now, this here is my upper boundary, and this here is not upper, my lower boundary, all right? My upper boundary and my lower boundary. Right, and that's it, right? That's going to be part A, right? Or part 1, right? Which was find a class boundary, right? So we have that part. Okay, let's go ahead and let's focus on the second part, right? This is part 1, right? Let's go ahead and focus on my midpoint, all right? My midpoint. So for your midpoint, it's gonna be a formula, right? Your midpoint, right, which is x sub m, it's going to be your lower boundary plus your upper boundary divided by 2. Right? So you can use these numbers that we just found, or you can use the numbers that were given in the beginning, right? Which will give us the same thing. Those values were the lower limit plus the upper limit divided by 2. Right? And they'll both give us the same value, right? But as we know, we probably won't have, in certain scenarios, it's going to be easier to do one or the other, right? If you start the problem and you're only giving the lower and the upper limits, right? And you don't have to find the upper and lower boundary, then of course, I would, get the largest minus the lowest one and subtracted by, divided by 2. So here, let's do them with both, right? That's not going to hurt. Let's do them with both. Let's do that with both. And I hope we all have our calculators with us, right? Yeah, let's right there. Okay. Let's do the lower boundary, right? Let's do the lower boundary. My lower boundary. Oh, did I say minus earlier? I'm sorry. I meant add, right? I meant add. I'm sorry. So the lower boundary, this is going to be 14.65 plus 17.35 over 2. And let's see what that gives us, right? Let's see what that gives me in the calculator. That gave me a 32 on top divided by 2, which is going to give me a what? Oh, let's do this. A 16. Okay, so it gave me a 16 whenever I use my upper and lower boundaries. Now let's try with the limits, right? Let's try with the limits. Let's add them together. So this is a 14.7 plus 17.3 divided by 2, right? You get 14.7 plus 17.3, right? Ooh, that gives me 32. Divided by 2, this is going to give me 16. Right? So it doesn't matter which one you use. Why, right? So you might be asking, oh, how is that possible, right? How does that work? We did something to the lower boundaries, right? We attached a 5 and we subtracted a 1 and added 5. So pretty much for this problem specifically, right here on the lower and upper boundary, we added by a 0.05, and on the other end, we subtracted by a 0.05, right? So, but if we have this range and we're with these numbers and you're adding from one end and subtracting it from the other end, the distance, you know what I mean? The range is still going to be the same. So whenever you add those two values together, right, that is why those values continue staying the same. So it's 16, right? So your midpoint, right, the point between those two values would be 16, right? Another way to look at this is if 14.7, if the middle part between 14.7 and 17.3 equals 16, right? If you were to stretch out this way an amount of distance, let's just say 0.05, and you were to stretch out this way that same amount, you're still going to be in the middle, right? You're still going to be centered. It's still going to be balanced because you expanded to the left and to the right a equal number of times, right? An equal distance away. So you're still going to be centered no matter what. And let's do here. There we go. We'll do that. And to find the class width, right? Class width, which is part 3, you can use the you can use your upper minus the lower, right? So it's going to be my upper minus lower. And you can use either the boundaries or the limit, right? The boundaries or the limit. So let's go ahead and use, right? We did work with the boundaries, so let's go ahead and use that, right? So it's going to be my largest value minus my lowest value, right? And 17.35 minus 14.65, that gives me 2.7. And there we are. That's how you find class width. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move on to example number 2, right? Example number 2, right? So for example number 2, here we have a distribution table, right? We are giving our classes, right? A column classes. A column is, right, a column. And a column of frequency, right? So this could be, let's just say, we'll get to the data part in a bit, actually. We'll get to the data part in example 3, right? So you're going to be given either for the test or for the homework, you're going to be giving a table like this, and you need to find out is this table constructed correctly, right? Because that's going to be your job throughout 2.1, right? To find out if eventually we're going to have to construct one, but we're going to be giving one and be, hey, was this constructed correctly? One thing must be A, right? A, the width must be uniform, the same in all classes, right? It must be the same, right? So in other words, that means for the first class, the width must, the width must be the same value, right? So let's find, and how do you find that, right? How do you find the width? It is going to be the 30 minus the 27, right? So width for first class would be 30 minus 27, and this is going to be 3, right? And the key here is that the width must be the same for all of them, right? The width must be the same for all of them. And let's go ahead and find out, right? 34 minus 31, that gives me 3, right? We said this one is 3. So far I know it's 3, right? This is 3. This is 3. 37 minus 35, that's a 2. 41 minus 38, that is a 3. And 45 minus 42, that is 3. This is not uniform, right? This was constructed incorrectly, all right? So the width must be the same in every column, right? And columns are, I'm sorry, rows, right? Rows. The width must be the same in every class row. So we found out so in other words, it must follow all these rules, A, B, and C. So it already filled this one, filled that one, right? The other criteria for a table to be constructed correctly must be that class limits cannot overlap. Meaning, if let's just say you have 27 through 30, right? Like the first one, the next one must continue the next number. It cannot be the same one, right? So 31 through 34, hey, that'll be correct, right? But if you had something like 30 through 34, that's incorrect, right? You cannot share the same number in both rows. They must be different, all right? And if we see here, right, it doesn't fail that, right? 27 to 30, then it jumps to 31 to 34, it jumps to 35 to 37, jumps through 38 to 41, jumps 42 to 45. It passes this one, right? It passes that one. And the next one must be the classes must not be omitted, right? There cannot be any jump from the first class down to the first value in your first class to the last value in the last class. Meaning that between 27, the lowest value, and 45, every number must be taken into consideration, right? So let's just say that you had something like 27 through 30, 31 through 34, but then you had 38 through 41 and 42 to 45, right? Let's say you had something like this. This would be incorrect because all of a sudden we've jumped from 34 all the way to 38. Where's 35 through 37, right? Where are those values at? Right? Where are those values at? So nothing must be omitted. Everything, no jumps are allowed, right? No jumps are allowed, right? So that means that if it passes all of these, hey, that's a good table. But if it fails at least one, then it was constructed incorrectly, right? So this one was it failed the width test, right? The width test. It failed the width test, right? Let's try another example. All right, let's try another example. You know what? Let me move these tests so we can have them. All right, let's move those over there to example 3. Oh, they're already there. Never mind. Okay. The frequency distribution shown is constructed incorrectly. State the reason why it's wrong. So it can be A, it can be B, it can be C, or it can be, more than one, right? You're gonna have to test all of them, right? So the width, right? The width test, right? Let's do here 139 minus 135. That gives me a 4, right? 144 minus 140, that gives me a 4. 149 minus 145, that gives me a 4. The other one gives me a 4. The other one gives me a 4. And the other one gives me a 4. Okay, so it passes that, right? It passes the width test. Pass. Now let's check that the class limits must not overlap, right? The class limits must not overlap. So that means if I'm at 135 through 139, I have to continue in the next row at 140. Yep, it does 140, 145, 149, 150, 154, 155, 159. There's not an overlap, but I see something already, right? So 159 through 165, and then, okay. So it passes this one, right? It didn't overlap, but what is one thing we did notice? Information was omitted, right? What happened from, where's 160 through that's not a 1. What happened to 160 through 164? Right? We need to take that data into consideration as well, right? So I already know that it fails the omission test, right? Everything must be included between 135 through 169. Everything must be included. So remember, if it fails one, then it fails the whole thing, right? Okay, now let's jump to frequency distribution for given data, right? Right. So here, right, a survey was taken asking the favorite flavor of a coffee drink a person prefers, right? The responses were C, right, for caramel, H for hazelnut, M for mocha, P for plain, and V for vanilla. All right. So your class, right? By class, you're going to be, the different flavors. How I have them written here in the first column. Your frequency, right? It's going to be how many there are, right? How frequently does that flavor come out, right? So let's do caramel, right? Let's do caramel. Anything with a C, right there, right there. Anywhere else? right there and right there, right? So I count 4. 4 for caramel, right? So I won't get confused. Let me go ahead and erase this real quick. Let's try hazelnut now, right? Oh, I got 1. I count 7, right? There's 7. Now let's try mocha. And you'll find out that whenever you're doing this, right, you can go ahead and pause the video here and count them. This is going to be 10. This here would be 16. And this here would be 6. Right? Another way you can find out if you're correct when you're doing these is how many values are here, right? That is a 4 rows times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on that top part, there should be 40, and let's not forget those 3. All right, so there should be 43. And you'll find out that whenever you add all these together, all right, when you find out your total frequency, the summation of the frequency, there should be 43 there, all right? You can go ahead and check that. It should be 43. Because it's easy to miscount, right? As whenever you're looking at this, the data, right? And here we would find out that the flavor with the most values, right? The most popular one is mocha, right? And the least popular one, right, is caramel, all right? Least popular one is caramel, right? So you might be saying, in other words, there's an easy way, right? An easy way to find these values in Excel, right? This is why Excel is very, very useful. It's very nice, right? Let's go ahead and let's do new share. Let's go ahead and where's Excel? There we go. Right. So for example 4, right? And the great thing about the homework, it lets you download this information, right, in Excel, and then whenever you open the file, it'll give you all this data, right? And look, if you notice, there's 43 values, right? 43 rows. One thing that'll be very helpful if you're dealing with large amounts of data like this, like I said, writing things down in circles like I was, there's high chance of error for that, right? So one thing you can do is, while you're in Excel, click on this column, click on the A, right? And this is going to highlight everything in that column, right? Everything in that column. And I want to sort this data, right? I want to sort this data. You're going to go here to the right-hand side while you're at the Home tab, and you're going to find Sort and Filter. And let's sort it from A through Z, right? A through Z. Oh, look at that. Okay. And I know I had a C flavor, right? And this is just so I can keep things organized. An H flavor, and M flavor, and a P flavor. And I think, what was the other one? V, right? Yeah, V. All right. So here we can see there were 4 caramels, right? So I would type in 4 there. Then you would go ahead and count your H's, right? You would go ahead and count your H's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7, and so forth. All right. So definitely take advantage of Excel, as you'll realize that as these problems progress, you're going to be giving larger amounts of data, and it'll be very useful, right? It'll save you a lot of time, right? A lot of time. So yes. Okay, so we're back here, right? So that's how we use the frequency distribution for given data, right? Without Excel and with Excel, right? Now let's jump to example 5, right? So with this problem, right, we're given, right, the question is the number of stories in each of a sample of the world's 26 tallest buildings follows. Now we need to construct a grouped frequency distribution table and a cumulative frequency distribution with 5 classes. So this here is going to be very important, right? This is going to be very important. So I already know, right, that I'm going to have a column with class limits, right? And there's going to be 5 of them. There's going to be something from here to here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, where do we start, right? What's the width? What are the ranges, right? So step 1, right? Whenever we're looking for a grouped frequency distribution, right? This is going to be the first part. You need to find the range, right? The range is going to be the largest value minus the lowest value, right? The highest value minus the lowest value. And if you notice, Excel is going to be very, very, very handy here, right? Excel is going to be very, very, very handy here because I really don't want to look through all these numbers and say, well, which one's higher, right? So I'm going to go to Excel. I'm going to go here, right? And here, right, you downloaded this data, right? And it gave it to me like that, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. You can either click, hold, and highlight what you want, or you can just click the column like before, right? It's going to highlight everything there. I'm going to go back to sort, and I'm going to sort from smallest to largest. So I know my smallest value is 54, and my largest value is 90, right? So in other words, I'm going to find my range here, right? If I want to find my range, right? How you can find that in Excel as well is click on the cell, right? Click on the cell is, you know, the little box, and I want you to type in equal, right? This means we're going to be computing something, and a number is going to be returned. I'm going to click on the largest value, that is cell D2, minus the smallest value, which is the cell right on top, D1, right? Then you're going to click enter, and it's going to compute it for you, right? So this means my range is 36. Very, very important. So let's go back to the other piece of paper, right? So now I know that my range is 36, all right? How will you find the width now, right? You want to find the width is going to be, and there's a formula for this, right? It's right here. The width is going to be your range divided by the number of classes, right? The width is equal to the range divided by the number of classes. Width is exactly what I need to know. My range, I just found out my range, right? It is the largest value in your data minus the lowest value. This is 36. And what is the number of classes, right? Well, this was given to us, right? This was given to us in the beginning, 5, right? So what is 36 divided by 5? This gives me a 7.2. Whenever we're dealing with width or with number of classes, we need an integer, right? I need a whole number. I don't want any decimals in it. So the rule of thumb is if you get a decimal, round up to the next number, right? So it's like saying 7.2 people, right, came to the party. Well, no, it's in reality 8 people came to the party, right? So that means my width is going to be 8, right? My width is going to be 8. let me go ahead and make this smaller, right? I don't want to erase this, right? And yes, um, if you're asking yourself right now, ooh, there's a lot of writing in this class. Yes, there's a lot of writing in this class. If you notice, it is highly, highly, highly recommended you buy one of those like really big notebooks, right? Um, right, it can have 5 sections. Um, it doesn't matter. You just need a pretty big folder, right? Excuse me. Yeah, you just need a really big folder to keep track of all your notes, right? Because for the exam, you're not going to be able to use any of your notes, right? So you really need to be sure that, like I said, you create flashcards and keep everything organized, because what's going to happen is this is section 2.1, right? 2, 3 weeks from now, we probably won't remember much from this section, but I want you to keep your notes organized or your homework organized, so then you can just look back and use it as a reference and then use it as study material. So you can be like, hey, I don't need to relearn this from the beginning. I can just look at my notes, right? Get my feet wet with the old material, and boom, I'm starting to remember, right? So let's be sure we're doing that, all right? So we've already found the range. I already rounded up to the next whole integer. Now I need to go ahead and create the limits column, right? My first column, my limits column, right? Let me go here. So we already know that there should be, the class is 5, so there should be 5 rows, right? So this here is going to be class limits, right? Class limits. And the class limit starts from the lowest value that we found, right? With the lowest value that we found, we go to Excel, and that was a 54, right? That was a 54. 54, right? What I then need you to do is add the width. I need you to add the width, right? So, right, if you do 54 plus 8, that should be 62. So you're going to do 62 here, right? And then I need you to do 62 plus 8 again, and it's going to give you the beginning of the next row. And you're going to do that until you hit the number of rows that was required, right? Or the number of classes that was required. So it's 5, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I need one more, right? So this is going to be 86, right? 86. All right. Now I need to go ahead and, so this is going to be 54 through 62, or is it going to be 54 through 61? 61, right? I cannot have any overlap, right? I cannot have any overlap. And so we know where to stop, right? Let's do 8. I'm down here. Let's do 86, and I'm going to add by 8 and 94, right? And then for, let's go back up here, right? So 62 through, it's going to be 69, 70 through 77, 78 through 85, and then 86 to 93, right? Boom, there we go. This is my class limits column, right? My class limits column. So that's one of them already, right? That's one of them. Now you need your class boundaries, right? And this is where you subtract by 0.5 and you add by 0.5, right? Pretty much example 1, the one that we did, right? So please be sure we know how to do this. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the required information to save us time, right? Save us time. I'll be right back. And ta-da! There we go, right? Ta-da! Here's my boundaries, right? My class boundaries. So if you notice, these are always the same, right? These are always the same. So you always want to make little notes in your head, or as you're writing these, write a little note, right? Let's take good notes stating these must be the same. This is how I know I'm on the right path, right? Because technically there shouldn't be any jumps, right? There shouldn't be any jumps. All right. And now we're going to find out, right? Now we're going to find out how many of these values here are between 54 through 61, right? Or in other words, between 53.5 and 61.5, right? In case we end up getting really specific values, right? Really specific values. So 54 through 61. So oh, you know what? Let's use Excel, right? Let's just go straight to Excel. 54 to 61, right? 54 to 61. Boom, right there. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So that should be 7. And the other one is from 62 through 69. So from 62 to 69, there I get a 3. And we'll do one more, right? We'll do one more. The next one was 70 through 77, right? I get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? I ended up getting 7 there. 7 there. And if you continue to do all these, you find out that between 78 and 85, you get 5. And between 86 through 93, you get 4, right? And yes, this is my frequency column, right? This is my frequency column. Okay, let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. Something like that, right? And you may also be asked to find your total frequency, right? You may also be asked to find your total frequency, right? So, hey, let's just say you're in Excel, right? And you plug this information in Excel, right? Let's go here. Let's just say you type in your frequencies and you got 7, you said 3, 7, 5, and I believe it was 4, right? 7, 3, 7, 5, 4. Yes, right? And you want to add all these up, right? You want to add all these up. What you do is you highlight the beginning, right? The first cell you want to count, and you include that one. I want to add that one too. I want to add that one too. I want to add that one. And then you're going to highlight a blank. You're going to go over a little bit over, right? You're going to highlight a blank cell. Why? Because what I need you to do is that empty cell is where your answer is going to pop up, right? That's where your answer is going to be summation. So you're going to go up here to the right and you're going to click on auto sum, right? Auto sum. You do that, and hey, gives me 26, right? Gives me 26. Another way to do it is you click equal, right? You type in sum, open up parentheses, and let's add all the numbers we wanted to, right? Let's choose the numbers we want to add. So I want to go from here, I'm going to click and hold and drag it all the way down, not there, up here, right? And then you're going to close your parentheses and then you click enter, right? So there, it gives me 26. So my total frequency, my total frequency is going to be not 56, 26, right? Right. So now, right, let's see your total frequency. Yes, very, very nice. So now we're going to create a cumulative frequency distribution table, right? What I need you to focus on, is on the class boundary table that you created, right? Because I'm going to want to use this value, that leftmost value, and so forth, right? Right? cumulative frequency table, right? Right here, right? And hey, how do those numbers come into consideration, right? You're gonna create a table that says everything less than 53.5, right? You're then going to create another table that says everything less than 61.5. And let me go, and of course, right, less than 69.5. And we're going to do some magic here again. Ta-da, right? There we go. Less than 53.5 all the way up to less than 93.5, right? So anything less than 53.5 would be, well, that's going to be 0, right? Because there was nothing there. The lowest one I had was 54, right? Anything less than 61.5. Well, between 0 and 61, I had 7, right? I had 7. So, and you see that number right here, right? And to find the next value, right, that goes here, because it's cumulative, right? You're adding it to the previous thing. It is now going to be 3 plus 7, right? Which is going to be 10, right? So now it's going to be 10. And I'm going to do the same thing now. You're going to include the value that's there, the frequency that's there, which is 7, plus everything before it, right? You can do 7 plus 3 plus 7, or 7 plus 10, right? This is going to be 17, right? So now I'm here. I'm at 5, right? So now I'm going to do 5 plus the previous value, which was 17. This is going to be 22. And everything less than 93.5, right? That is going to be 4 plus everything before it. 26. And is this a coincidence? No. This value must, so this is one table, right? This was table B, and this was table A, right? These values must be the same. They must be the same values, right? They must be the same values. Okay. Let's go ahead and do one more example, right? We'll go ahead and do one more example. This was a little bit different, but we're still going to be using the same formula we used before, right? The scores in the Rose Bowl, right? These are scores in the Rose Bowl. The data shows the scores of the winning teams in the Rose Bowl. Construct a frequency table, frequency distribution table for the data using a class width of 9. What? So now they're giving me my what? They're giving me my width. Right? They're giving me my width. But it'd be nice if we had the number of classes, right? Because the number of classes tells me the number of rows, right? The number of rows. So the first thing I want to do is, just like the previous problem, is find range, right? And have you noticed this data keeps getting larger and larger and larger? There's more values in there, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather that information in Excel, right? Let's go to example 6. I'm going to highlight the column and sort from smallest to largest. Smallest is 16. Largest is 51. So 16 and 51, right? Right, 51 minus 16, that's going to give me my range, right? They're going to give me my range. And this is going to be 35. Was I looking at the correct example 6? Yes. So this is going to be 35, right? So my range is 35, right? Well, if I now have width, right? If I now have, let's do that. Let's just do range. If I have width and range using the formula I had before, right? The formula we used before, I can find number of classes, right? The formula is here. It's width is equal to range over number of classes, right? So in other words, this is going to be my width equals 9 equals range, which is 35 over, let's just say x, right? Let's just say x, because that's exactly what I'm trying to find, my number of classes, right? So I'm going to cross multiply, right? 9, we know 9 is the same thing as 9 over 1, right? So 9 times x, that gives me 9x. And 1 times 35, this gives me 35, right? 9 and x are multiplying each other, right? And let's remember from college algebra, right? If two things are multiplying, right? Two things are multiplying, you solve for x by dividing, right? By dividing. Right, so 35 divided by 9 is going to give me 3.8. But even whenever you're talking about number of classes and width, it has to be a whole number, right? So we always want to round up. Round up. So my number of classes is 4. Right, my number of classes is 4. So let's go ahead and erase all this. Number of classes is 4, right? I have my class limits column. I'm then going to have my class boundary column. And then I'm going to have my frequency column, right? My frequency column. So the lowest value we said, let's go back to Excel, was 16, right? 16. So I know I'm going to start at 16. And then I'm going to add by the width, right? So that'll be 16 plus 9, right? Which would give me 25. And then 25 plus 9, it'll give me 34. And we need just one more, right? I need just one more. So 34 plus 9, this would give me 43. And I'm going to do one more so I know where to stop, right? 43 plus 9 will give me a 52, right? So this means this is going to be 16 through 24, 25 through 33, 34 to 42, and then 43 to 51, right? Right. And again, we're going to find our class boundaries, right? And this is why the previous assignments, chapter 1, and the first few, the example we did in the beginning is very helpful because it just gives us more practice for this part, right? So here I have 15.5 going to the left-hand side and then 24.5. And we're going to do magic one more time. Give me a second. Okay. Ta-da, magic, right? So, and what did we say before? Hey, look at that. Right? So use that, right? Use that. Hey, you know what? I should be on the right track, right? I'm on the right track. So now we're going to do the frequencies, right? And especially when it comes to numbers like this, man, you can get lost just counting them. So again, I would go to Excel, right? Excel. And I'm looking for 16 through 24. Anything 24, that's going to give me 15, right? Whoa. Yes, 15, all right. You count the rest, right? We go from 25 up to 33, from 25 up to 33. There's no 33, so I stop there. That is half, that is half. That's going to be 8, right? It's going to be a total of 8. And so forth, right? So as you're doing all of these, you'll find out that this is 10 and this is 7, right? is 10 and that is 7. And you want to add these together, right? You want to, and this is the table that I'm looking for, right? This is going to be the table that I'm looking for. One column class limits, the other column class boundaries, and the other column frequencies, right? So my total frequency is, well, let's add this by hand, right? Not by hand, but using our calculator, right? And I get 40. And like I said, another way to check to see if that frequency is correct, multiply the number of rows by the number of columns, right? It's a 4 by 10, so that's going to give me 40. Right? Hey, we're on the right track, right? 40. Right? And that is all I have, right? That's all that's required for, for this specific question, right? All I need to provide is the that table. But hey, let's just say that we wanted to keep going and do the cumulative frequency data, right? What we said was that we were going to get these values from CB, right, from our boundaries, and use that, right? So we said less than 15.5, less than 24.5, less than 33.5, and less than 42.5, right? So anything less than 15.5, well, there's none of that, right? There's nothing there, right? Because our data only says between 16 and 24 is 15, right? So there's nothing there, right? Anything less than 24.5, well, I know what that's going to be, right? That's going to be the previous value, 0, plus the amount here, 15. All right, so that's going to be 15. Anything less than 33.5, right? Anything less than 33.5 is going to be 8 plus the previous value, right? That's going to be 8 plus 15. $23. And for the next one, I have 10, anything less than 42.5, right? This is going to be 10 plus 23. This is going to be 33. Very nice. 33. Yes, very, very nice. Oh, I'm missing one more, right? Less than 51.5, right? Less than 51.5. This is going to be 7 plus the previous value, 33, which is 40, right? And if you notice what I used here, right? Because sometimes, we may miss a column accidentally, a row accidentally. I had to use all these values, right? I had to use all these values here. And I caught myself right now, right? Because I forgot to add an extra row, right? So there we go. I ended up using every value. And hey, this number is the same as this number. That's good, right? That's pretty good. So hope that helped. This was section 2.1. Don't forget the homework assignments are due Sunday, right? They're due Sunday by 11:59 p.m. If you have any questions or concerns, please, send me an email. I'm here to help. Make sure you get the syllabus done, right? Make sure the syllabus quiz is submitted, because you will not be able to continue next week's homework assignments until that is completed. If you haven't participated in discussion 1, please do so as soon as possible, right? Please get to that as soon as possible. Yes, for the discussions, right? You must have a camera for the discussions, right? So just recording with audio or blocking, right, or having the camera turned off, that's not going to get you any points, all right? It's going to give you no credit. So please, right, let's go ahead and participate. And beginning with discussion 2 and forward, right? Discussion 2 is on the calendar when that becomes available. you will have to record, right, post and write a post part of the discussion. You're also going to have to reply, video reply to one of your classmates, right? To at least one of them for full credit. So, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And the videos for the following sections will be posted every Monday, right? So, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching. Happy studying.